Hi there, it's Erin Tracy. It's been a little bit of a busy time for me, and sometimes you can just concentrate on a couple of things at a time, but you all have been in my heart, and I've had something on my mind that I wanted to share. That sometimes it's easier just to talk in an informal way than to write something. So I was thinking about the balance between one thing and another, and in the work I do and in the work that I do with people, this is something that is foundational to me. You know, most of you know that I teach Qigong. I teach a method of Qigong, but the principles of that are: how can I be more in harmony? How can I be more in balance with what is happening around me, with nature, with what is coming into my experience, with how my mind is interpreting it. This is, it has to do with our food, how we're in balance with our food. It's just, balance is everything. And so one of the things I was thinking about in particular that can sometimes get out of balance for us and cause us suffering is along the continuum of being accommodating with what is happening and being too accommodating with what is happening. So, or you could say, along the continuum, not being accommodating at all, being very inflexible and rigid, versus the other end of that would be, never sticking up for yourself, never expressing what your needs are, having people walk all over you, and then not liking that, not liking it when people take advantage of you. Because you quote unquote let them, right? But then later on you don't like it and you feel like a victim. So, I was thinking about how can we, obviously it's less stressful to be accommodating and not mind it, right? That's the best way maybe, or the most life-affirming thing to be able to get to that place with most things. You let someone in traffic and you don't think that they're a jerk for wanting to get in or not planning ahead. But I was thinking about where it gets harder. For example, when you feel like you're right and somebody else is wrong, or when you know that somebody is manipulating you, you're absolutely aware that they're trying to get you to do something that you do or do not, maybe not want to do. Either way, that doesn't matter, but you don't like that you feel manipulated. And so being able to be accommodating in that sense causes you a lot of suffering, because you don't like to feel that somebody is getting you to do what they want you to do. You feel like you're losing your power. And every time I've looked at this, in different situations in my own life or talking to clients, I keep coming back to, this has a lot to do with our perspective on it. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I'm trying to talk close to this. It has a lot to do with how we look at it. So I was thinking about, recently, one of the things that I've had going on, among many other things that's made it hard to be as active in this group, is that I'm moving. And it's very exciting, it's all good, but there have been a lot of bumps along that road, a lot of lessons, a lot of opportunities, a lot of places to have a training ground for what I teach. And in one particular case, I was very much aware that I was being manipulated, and I definitely did not like it. I knew it was wrong. And I knew things like the law, ethics were on my side, right? And in the end, I realized that my standing on my convictions, that I want to be right and that he's wrong and that he can't treat me that way and all of that, it was going to cause me a lot of suffering to go that way, to stand my ground in that way, without giving a lot of details. It doesn't, the thing is the details aren't really that important, because this sort of scenario plays out in many of our lives, where you actually don't mind doing the thing. It's just that you don't want somebody else to be directing it. You don't like that idea that belief that somebody has control over you. So I was very aware that I didn't like this, and I didn't want him to quote unquote win and me to lose. And then I realized that if I stood in that place, that it was going to cause some suffering for me, certainly giant inconvenience, certainly a loss of money, and in the end, did I have to mind that he was manipulating me? I had a choice there. It doesn't mean that I let him manipulate me. I just decided that it wasn't about me, that he felt that he had to do it that way. And once I was free of that, I could go forward and get to the place where the outcome was one. Well, I was clear that any way the outcome went, I was going to be okay with it. This wasn't a life-threatening situation, right? You have to be clear about that. When we're talking about a life thing, when we're talking about we just don't like it. So in the end, it's fine. I decided that even though he probably thinks that he manipulated me and won, I actually don't care. I don't mind this because things worked out for me and my family. And we're moving on. So that's one piece of it. The other piece about being accommodating in that way, I don't feel like I am taking a place of personal power here. I decided how I was going to look at it. And this is something that we can do in every single thing. We can do it in traffic. We can do it in traffic when somebody else makes a mistake or when we make a mistake. We can do this all the time, but it's very interesting to use the places where it's hardest to train, to practice. So on one hand, I am speaking about being accommodating, in balance, and then, I've sort of already mentioned like what can be the, even if you know that you're right, or if people took a vote, you would win, people would agree with you, all of this, that rigid end of things. Like, I'm always aware of when I'm like, it's just the principle of the thing. That's why I'm going to do it. Well, yes, and sometimes it's important energetically to hold your ground. But how will you be when you hold your ground? How are you going to be in your heart? How are you going to feel in your body when you do this? Are you bringing a lot of kind of energy to it? I call it, you're bringing FU energy to it when you hold your ground against someone who is quote unquote doing you wrong. You have that belief. Or are you going to be the peaceful warrior, the steady, and whatever the language is, explain that won't work for you, and move through the emotion quickly that's causing you suffering? All of this has taken a while for me to be able to do it pretty quickly, and one of the things that brings me so much joy is working with my clients to help them do this more quickly, to not mind so much. It's so awesome to hear their stories of dealing with difficult people who may be in their lives every day, or just a simple situation, or maybe they feel like they just continue to run into people who aggravate them everywhere they turn, every boss, etc. In the next video, I want to speak about when we're too accommodating and the costs of that. All right, thanks for listening. Ciao.